Hi, welcome to Talkin Business. I'm Joe Catrambone, CEO of the Stewart Martin County Chamber of Commerce, and I'm honored today to have Blake Magid with me. Blake is a member of our chamber, and he also is in a really interesting business containing luxury homes. One of our biggest issues, probably forever, was housing, especially in Martin County. We were at one time able to send people who wanted to locate a business in Martin County, send them to St. Lucie County. Rents were more reasonable. Cost of a home was more reasonable. It's not like that anymore. St. Lucie has probably surpassed us in a lot of areas. So when you're in economics, you're running a chamber of commerce, and you are trying to encourage people to locate a business here. It's almost impossible because they, as a company owner, may be able to afford to live in Martin County, but their employees can't. And quite frankly, a lot of times even the owner of a business can't afford to buy a home in Martin County. Well, Blake has come up with a really novel idea, and I'm not even gonna make an attempt to explain, but I'm going to, in essence, tell you that he takes containers and makes luxury living quarters out of them. Homes. Do you call them tiny homes or like?
Yeah, well, I call them tiny homes on steroids, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. So how about, first of all, I think that's a wonderful idea. But before we do that, let me ask you, and I like to ask people, because Martin County is such a unique place, how did you end up in Martin County? What brought you here?
I wish I had a cooler story other than
Your parents moved here and you came with them?
yeah, no, I just kind of lucked into a good partner early on, and he had a friend that had a friend that had a place, and it just kind of brought us up here. And I'm commuting every day all the way from West Palm, so Palm Beach County was really where the pricing pushed me up to this area. And just with some good relationships, we got an opportunity to get into the space we're leasing now. That is now our showroom, and it's been great. It's been a good opportunity to work with the community up here, get to know people, get to know the area. So, here we are.
Well, good. We're glad you're here. So how about give us some background, how you did it, and what you do, and let people know exactly what you're doing.
So I've been a state licensed general contractor for almost 20 years already. I'm a younger guy, but
yeah.
I was a young general contractor.
So you were building homes at one time?
That's correct, yeah. Homes, commercial buildings, PRADA, Nike, Foot Locker, Starbucks.
Oh, yeah.
Traveled around the country doing that, and I went on a mission trip with my church down to Costa Rica probably like 6 years ago. I came back from that, and I started focusing on affordable housing. Buying, renovating areas myself, and I've always looked into alternative methods of construction, and always just seeing what's out there, 3D printing of homes, different ICF forms, whatever's available. I'm constantly researching it, building out quotes, and seeing, is this truly a more cost effective? Does it work in this market? And I came across containers, and meeting hurricane code is such a difficult and expensive thing to do down here.
Yes, it is.
That, buying a steel welded structure for as inexpensive as we can, because we're importing so much into our country, it was a good way to recycle these containers that we're, filling up at our ports, but it also was just a shell that I could use as a vessel. It wasn't that I was like, oh, I really want to build shipping container homes. It was that, hey, this container is a really affordable structure to start with as a platform for building a small living structure, and they're so strong that we just
meet all the standards.
Exactly, yeah. And even though we know they do, because there's international construction code, it still is something that we're focusing on pushing through. We're getting all of our state approvals. Tons of money going into engineering and certifications, but we're pioneering the way. Nobody else has done that. There's plenty of other people building shipping container homes, but they're not actually trying to get them certified to be qualified as a dwelling. So that's what we've been focusing on doing.
What do they do with them if they're not using them for a dwelling?
They're getting around permitting. They build them, and there's no standard. So these are people that are just building them in random shops that don't really have a lot of construction experience. So we're trying to standardize that. We're trying to really go through the proper way, the proper channels, and build out quality control systems, testing, to ensure that the state approves this and says, hey, we're recognizing your product as a dwelling. Now, with that being said, our homes are 320 square feet, and most of the housing market, when you look at HUD, was developed into a 400 square foot footprint. And we're just below that. So we're having to alter a lot of things that are already set in code. And so, but fortunately, the tiny home push across the country and people wanting to downsize and consolidate everything they have into smaller spaces has opened up a lot of doors that now, governments not only here, but also across the country are starting to look at tiny homes as, hey, we need to make appendix changes to building code to allocate, special appendixes for tiny homes because they're such a huge housing source now.
Okay, so the typical container is 320 square feet, and law
Correct.
requires 400? Ordinances?
Yeah, for the most part, time when you look at HUD,
Okay.
it's referring to like 400 square foot structures and above for dwelling
Okay,
units.
so how do you take a unit, a 320 square foot unit, and add 80 square feet to it?
You can't. I mean, you can, but it wouldn't make it affordable. So that's our problem is
Okay.
getting the municipalities to understand. Hey, look, this is an old rule. There are tons of people out there that just can't afford to get a product in that square footage. Like, this is an alternative that's super strong, energy efficient, and we need you to start recognizing other potential housing alternatives that are smaller than 400 square feet. So
that, you wouldn't take, let's say a 20-foot Fruhoff container that sat in the back of a flat or a straight bed truck and make a home out of that?
So we can.
You could?
We can, yeah, and we do have that product. It's a 20-foot, so you're talking real small. It's more of an efficiency. That's 20 foot by 8 foot, so only 160 square feet. That's a perfect product for transitional housing, workforce housing, something that's very mobile that we can pick up. We can literally load on the back of a tow truck. You can pick up and load on any flatbed trailer, and we can transport them all over. So for like disaster housing after hurricanes, FEMA, a lot of those emergency housing companies are supplying mobile homes, and RVs. And then when they're not using them, they're sitting in fields, they're falling apart, they're rotting, where these, they're designed for 20-year lifespans out on the ocean, being slammed around on container
Right.
ships to trains to trucks.
Right.
So they're super, super strong, and we can coat them with things that make them 100% waterproof, leave them in a field for a year, then go load them up, and they'll stay in a life cycle for 15, 20, 30 years with very minimal maintenance.
So you're shipping containers, and that's basically, and there must be tons of those available,
Yeah,
aren't there? I mean,
A lot.
So I guess one of our biggest importers is China, right?
yes,
So they build these containers in China?
all over the place. But yeah,
Yeah.
China is a major
Okay.
manufacturer.
So they build them, they load them with product, put them on a ship, send them here. They get unloaded, and they get stored somewhere? Is it, or
Correct. Yeah. If they don't have something, say that that shipping company, for instance, one of my friends owns Blackout Coffee. They're going to be moving to Fort Pierce, but when they ship in equipment, it came from China. My friend called me and he's like, "Hey, they made me buy the container. Do you want this?" Or so then the equipment will be offloaded. Now that container, somebody's got to either ship
Oh,
something
so
back
that's
in
how
it
they
or
do
it's going into
They
storage.
make you buy the,
Sometimes, or Some of the freight companies, they decommission units. We prefer to buy only one-trip containers. But the U.S. is importing so much more than we're exporting that there's a massive surplus of existing containers coming in that don't have a product to be reloaded with and sent back out.
So the supplier in China, they don't want the container back.
A lot of the time it costs more to ship the
Ship
container back than it
empty,
does
even if-
just to sell it off. So we work directly through wholesale companies, so we might buy containers before they ever even reach the US. So it will be offloaded, and then we have trucks going in and immediately loading that container up and bringing it to our facility. But because there's so much surplus coming in, we can actually buy those containers less than we can manufacture them in the US. That container might cost $20,000-$30,000 to manufacture, buying the steel here, paying the labor. So we can buy that container at a fraction of that cost, and it's now just the structure, it's just the vessel that we're using as a super strong platform to now build an entire home inside of it.
So your home, rather than with a Fruhoff trailer, for instance, your steel home, can that be picked up and moved?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, it
yeah,
can,
we
because
crane
you-
them over houses.
okay.
You can load them on semi trucks.
Because you mentioned that with the Fruhoff, you could leave it out and pick it up, put it on the back of a flatbed. Your structure is obviously probably heavier,
Yeah.
and so you pick it up with a crane and you put it on what, a railroad tray?
Yeah, I mean, we've picked them up all different ways. We're a small company and we built these in a field originally. It's where we started, out in Texas. And when we came here, we were working with whatever budget we had from my existing construction company. So we use skid steers to pick them up in the air. Now we have specialty equipment that we can lift them straight up in the air. We can back any trailer underneath, drop them down. You can crane them. You can pick them up with an excavator. We have hydraulic tilt trailers to deliver and pick up units. We just delivered a fully built out 40-foot, all the glass, furniture, everything inside. And it took us 30 minutes. We had it delivered inside our building, set up with decks. I mean, so
Wow.
we've
What's
really
that?
got into a system where,
So do you build just on order, or are you building them and storing and setting them up where people can come in, look at them, and buy them?
yeah, so we do both. We have a showroom out in Sands Business Plaza. So people can go in there anytime, 7 to 3 p.m., Monday through Friday. You can go in, you can see all the different units. We've got duplex units, tiny efficiency, Airbnb models, and full living units. And then we have a manufacturing facility that we might already have product just being built that people can buy something from the showroom and get a unit right away. Or there's custom orders that people are placing. We're working with a company in the Bahamas right now that might need like 20, 40-foot units for housing. And they're perfect because they can be dropped off, they can be loaded on ships, easily transported, and they're so strong you don't have to worry about the flexing and the
Bending or-
twisting
yeah.
and so all the glass, everything being shipped, completely built out.
Typically, so your basic unit again is 320 square
Yeah.
feet?
Yep.
Okay. If I want one, can I come in and say to you, I want a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, or you can customize it to what I want? Or do you have this is my 320-foot unit, take it or leave it?
It's pretty much to take it or leave it at this point because we're held to such strict standards in Florida for Florida Building Code that it costs us so much money to engineer and get a unit certified. And going through that extensive process for a customer to make one alteration to this product that we've spent so much time R&Ding, that we now have to resubmit that as a complete change to get more engineering done and alter everything and get a state approval. So there's minor things like you could choose your flooring or you could choose your cabinets, but there's only so much you can do with an 8x40 platform that has welded steel structures all over in it that we're working around. So really what you see in our showroom is like, hey, trust us, we've gone through all this. This is the best way to do
Okay,
it.
so what's a typical unit?
They range from like cost-wise?
No,
Or-
we'll talk about
Okay.
that in a minute. Are they 2 bedroom, 1 bath? Or
No, so you have your 8x40 is technically a 1 bedroom, 1 full bath, kitchen, living area. So 1 bedroom apartment. And then we also have a 40-foot model that has a partition wall down the middle, and it makes two 20-foot high cube efficiencies. So you get like kind of a duplex out of one 40-foot shipping container. That's your perfect workforce housing, homeless, or honestly like camps. That's a great product, super strong, button down the hatches. It's going to survive any storm. So that's probably what's going to be going down to the Bahamas for some of the workforce housing stuff we're working on.
So, do you require, if I have a lot, I have to put a slab down?
No, no. So
You
we
drop
can
it right on the
coordinate all
ground?
that. Yeah. So we have
No,
a
but-
general. Oh,
But do you drop it on the ground, or is a slab required?
there is a foundation required, but a slab is actually counterproductive. You don't need to waste all that concrete because the containers are only going to be supported in a couple of structural support locations.
I see.
So you actually save a lot on permeable ground that we're pouring all this concrete, all these huge foundations, and that's why the floodplains keep rising and rising every single year. And new code says, well, we'll just put your house higher. Well, now that guy's house that wasn't in a flood zone is now in a
it's
flood
up.
zone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we're just leapfrogging. That's
Yeah.
not going to fix anything. So we're starting to look at ways that we can minimize the amount of concrete we're using so that the ground can still soak up all that water underneath. And that's what's leading, we have to start looking at smaller spaces. And you start, luckily we have a YouTube channel, so we get to hear the responses from millions of people around the world. And it's amazing how many people from, 70-year-olds to 18-year-olds are like, I don't want a big house. I like to travel. I just want a place that I can keep as a crash pad. And the rest of the time I'm on the road, So a lot of people don't want 3-bedroom houses. They just
Yeah,
want
but-
a small space that they can easily maintain and save some money. And we've got to start looking at some of these alternative products because, coming from the construction market, it's extremely difficult to find qualified guys to put up houses fast enough. We have to start looking at manufacturing in confined
Well,
spaces.
is there, I mean, if you're building a house, you need craftsmen, you need carpenters. What are you using now, welders?
Yeah, so it's funny. You think you're doing the exact same thing you were doing out in the field. Like, I mean, the same electricals going in, the same plumbing, the same drywall finishes, the same flooring. So it's all the same trades. But what we found is that we can actually take guys that don't necessarily have the trade skills that a lot of the other guys are doing out in the field, and we can teach them to. So we're doing a lot of OJT and second chance employment because we can take guys that you've never worked a day in construction in your life, but once we're in the middle of trying to raise some capital for a new manufacturing facility, once we can get this into that assembly line type of production, well, we can train you to do the exact same thing over and over and over again. So we're not looking at, we're limited to taking these really skilled guys and taking them away from building the homes
Yeah,
out.
like a cabinet maker.
Exactly.
That's a skill.
Yeah, like, we're buying stuff that we just need assembly done. So it's much more manufacturing than it is home construction, even though the end result is the exact same product.
So what's the profile of your typical client? There is none?
There is none.
Okay, could range from-
We've had guys flying on private jets to come in and be like, yeah, I want to buy one and put it in North Carolina, and I'm going to live in this. Like, I mean, crazy. And then you have people that are like, down to, I just got out of prison, and I can't get an apartment because of the restrictions, and and everything in between. I mean, it's all over the place.
Okay, which leads me into what we said we'd come back to. So, a second chance. By the way, we'll talk about this. Have you met with Jeannie yet about employers?
I don't know. We have so many people in and out of the office. Maybe.
No, this is
Okay.
about finding people jobs.
Okay.
So if you dealt with her, you would remember, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. So a guy or a gal person just gets out of prison. Maybe they have an entry level job.
Mm-hmm.
At best, that's what they're going to probably hope for,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially in the first year, anyway, since they're out of prison. So, how did, what would it cost? And how, do you have a financing program? Is it easily for, I'm bunching a bunch of questions together. Are the bankers comfortable lending money for these type of structures? And does someone coming out of prison, do they need a big down payment to buy one? Take me through that.
Yeah, so it's funny. Most guys second chance employment, so we do that. And I'm going to touch on a couple of your questions all at once. So my top sales and marketing guy is a guy that came from our second chance employment, and he was the one that opened up the, hey, look, when you're a felon, you can't get a job and you can't get a house, and a lot of time,
How about a loan?
well, you're definitely not getting a loan. And a lot of the time, some of their probation requirements are that you have a house and a job. Well, you're directly, being blocked from getting that. So we were in a position that we were like, hey, let's start looking at maybe filling that void. Like, we could provide housing and employment. We might, and the taxpayers are paying to put these people back in prison when they're trying to get a job and get a house, but they're being told everywhere they go they can't. So that's kind of where the second chance employment falls in with our company. But the other side of it is the loans, no, they don't exist. So that's why pioneering this way of getting the state approval, spending whatever's required to get the proper engineering, to get these certified as a product, then opens up all the doors. So Danny was always joking in the beginning. He's like, imagine we're a car dealership and you're selling a car that can't be driven on the road and you got to pay 100% cash. And we moved as much product as we did. Imagine how much we're going to move when we are the only licensed certified product out there that now we can finance and anyone can have them because we're state approved and we can drop them in your backyard. We can crane them over your house. We have all the proper documentation. So that's why this big push for the state certifications is so big, because we have hit every block you could possibly hit. We have a product sitting here ready to deploy, and we can't use it to help any of the people that are constantly calling our place, that have a little bit of money but not all the money, have a location but the government's telling them they can't put it there, and we're getting the phone calls all day long from people in the community that are saying, I'm about to have to move because I can't afford to live here. And we have $35,000 homes that, maybe some people will walk into our showroom and be like, this is too small for me. There's a lot of people that aren't operating on wants. They're operating on needs,
Exactly.
And I need a 320 square foot space. I don't, I want 4,000, but it's not, I'm not operating at luxury.
They're realists.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's obviously a great service you're providing. We'll talk more. I don't want to take up much time, but we have a program called Career Connect Martin.
Okay.
And Gina Masters she handles the program. Angela Hoffman oversees the program. So we'll take and we're dealing with a lot of second chance employers. We'll take an employer. If you're registered with us, you come in, fill out the paperwork. We vet you. We vet the person before we send them to you. We'll send you a trainee for 4 weeks, and we'll pay him $15 an hour while we're training them.
Perfect.
At the end of that 4-week period, if you want to hire them, you hire them. If you don't, if it doesn't work out, you don't hire them. So you need to talk to me or Gina more about that, because I think we can help you get employees. And we're getting a lot of second chance people are coming in, and they're great. They really are. I mean, I don't know how many she's put to work, but they've all worked out.
Yeah.
So.
We're definitely open to that.
Good.
Well,
make sure you talk to, like I said, give me a call and I'll make sure that you and Gina get together. We're winding down. Anything we missed you want to talk about?
I think the biggest thing to us is, just reaching out to the community and asking for anyone that, can help connect dots. We've done this all on our own funding. We have been pioneering this thing, and all we hit is roadblocks, and very rarely are we getting assistance to actually get the funding we need to grow the company, to get the spaces we need for manufacturing, which allow, in turn, unfortunately right now, because of the way we're manufacturing, we do have to rely on those highly skilled trade guys because we do not have that
Like a
manufacturing.
production line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Soon as we have the funding for that space, now we can really start employing a lot of people, and we can take guys that have, zero construction skills and give them the trades that, even if they want to move on from us, we now, you're a professional insulation guy after you've done it every single day for 3 months straight. You can go get a job at any insulation company. So we understand we're going to be a stepping stone for a lot of people, both for housing and for employment.
Well, Blake, it's a great idea. It's wonderful what you're doing because you're providing a service that's really needed in our community. But please, first of all, thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and please come in and talk to us. And you join the chamber. There's so many things that we can help you with. Ask. If we can't help you, we'll steer you in the right direction. So
Appreciate that.
that's what we do. Okay. Again, thank you
Awesome.
for coming.
Yeah,
Look
thank
forward
you.
to seeing you at the next event.
I appreciate it.